One of my favorite parts of Draft League is the ability to change up your team if you're noticing some common weaknesses. With such a large board of Pokemon, and other coaches also making transactions, if you look long enough, you may find new mons that may be able to improve your team. After a pretty convincing defeat last week at the hands of Latios, I knew I needed to make some changes. And the first step of this is getting an actual viable Dark type. With Dark being such a coveted typing, the likelihood of me finding a new Dark was grim. Dark types like Alolan Muck, Zoroark, and Bisharp just didn't fit the team very well. However, one thing I mentioned earlier is that other players have also been making transactions. And that's when I saw it. Samurott Hisui has arguably the most spammable move in the game in Cecil's Edge, giving me free spikes every time I click the attack. I knew I wanted it as soon as it was dropped because it gave me two things I was lacking: a good psychic resist and a good offensive assault vest mon. Hisui and Samurott is a mon I'm always hesitant on drafting because it usually goes in the first 3 rounds, and me personally, I think there are better mons to grab in those first 3 rounds. But from a transactions perspective where I already have a great top 3, Samurott was pretty much a perfect addition. Now, Samurott Hisui is 4 more points than Moltres Galar, so I knew I'd have to swap some more mons out. The 2 mons I was looking to swap out were Arcanine Hisui and Bellibolt. Arcanine H sucks and has 0 good matchups, and Bellibolt I do like, but I feel like I needed a more offensive Volt Switcher that was a little bit less passive, so I compressed these 2 into Rotom Heat. For some reason, people hate on this oven, but with Pain Split back, it accomplishes the ability of checking flying types, being a good Volt Switcher, and also giving me another ground immunity. Rotom Heat in my opinion is very reliable, and at just 9 points, I feel like I got a steal. With 7 points left for transactions, the next thing I wanted to address was my Ghost weakness and my lack of special defense. Samurott obviously resists Ghost, but it doesn't want to have to be a reactive Pokemon since it's such a good offensive piece. A lot of my Pokemon have really good natural physical defense, but they lack in the special defensive area, so I knew it was time to get the Bear. Ursaring covers all of these roles and gave me one other thing: a status absorber. With a lot of big physical attackers on my team, Will-O-Wisp is very good against me, and Ursaring is a great deterrent for that. With my 1 point remaining, I got... Yeah, so anyways, that's the new team. I feel like these transactions are going to make building a lot easier for me for the upcoming weeks. So much so that 3 of them are on my week 4 team versus High Jump Sean. Can you guess which one I benched? Don't kinda... Yeah, it's Pseudo. High Jump Sean has some of the most insane stats in tours and leagues, and is a very consistent battler. On top of this, he has what I believe to be the best team of the draft. The issue when prepping for his team is out of the 10 mons, his lowest point is an 8-point Terra Revavroom. That's too many good Pokemon to actively check, so it's going to be up to me to make a team that checks what I believe to be his best 6, while still not crumbling to his other 4. With that in mind, let's go over what I believe are definitely coming. Tornadus Therian, it's his only mon that outspeeds Enamorus and Sneasler. Deoxys Defense, it's a great physical defensive wall into Garchomp and Sneasler. Revavroom, it's a very strong sweeper with Terra Fairy and Air Balloon. Rotom Wash, annoys the living out of all my Pokemon. The last 6 mons I could all see a case for, but these were the 4 I knew were going to be making an appearance this game. So without further ado, let's see what I've brought. Kicking things off, we have Enamorus, and for the first time it's rocking that stellar Terra typing. Enamorus' goal for this game is to break through one of his walls like Deoxys Defense or Tornadus Therian, swap out, then apply more pressure later on, and then Healing Wish up one of my setup Pokemon later on. Stellar Blast is ridiculously free because after 1 boost, nothing is really taking a Moonblast. Enamorus also has an insane speed tier here with only Tornadus Therian outspeeding and Iron Treads tying it, so I just went with max on my investments. Following Enamorus is my Wincon, Samurott Hisui. The best Dark Resist Sean has is Overquill, so Scarf was an easy pick. Cecil's Edge is ridiculously spammable, and Spikes are very strong against all of his grounded Pokemon. It's also a great way to offensively check his Terra Captain Ceruledge. The rest of my moves are filler for the purpose of revenge killing, pivoting, and Jet is there just in case Revavroom is shift geared up or Ceruledge gets a weak armor boost. I needed to get some pivots into his offensive Pokemon, so Slowbro and Rotom Heat are up next. My Slowbro has no item as a mean to swap into Poltergeist Ceruledge, and better take knockoffs from Blow Kicks and Mienshao. Foul Play destroys Ceruledge and does tons of damage to Revavroom, and Scald is there to snag burns on any mon really. I went with Yawn over Ice Beam because I figured Slowbro was better off forcing out the setup threats than being my Dragonite swap. Rotom Heat makes its debut as a very standard set. This thing is great for spreading Will-O-Wisps on his physical attackers, swapping into the Torn, and overall just being a nuisance for a lot of his not as naturally strong mons like Iron Treads. Now, these last 2 need to be talked about together. Ursaring and Garchomp. Originally, Ursaring was Scizor, because I felt like I needed a way to revenge a Terra Fairy Revavroom. However, I was noticing that my team basically got soloed by a Will-O-Wisp Pain Split Rotom Wash. It was a free lead, and I'd lose way too much momentum to it. So instead, I swapped to a Swords Dance 3 attacks Ursaring. This is my dedicated lead because besides Mienshao, nothing really does much damage to this, and it's a great way to deal with the two best leads on his team, Tornadus Therian and Rotom Wash. The ultimate goal is for Ursa to kill one of his mons early, and then Enamorus is able to Healing Wish it up late game after all of his mons are chipped, and it can clean up the game. Now, Garchomp. Yes, I have no ground move versus Revavroom, Ceruledge, and Iron Treads. However, with Scizor off my team, I was convinced that a Terra Fairy Air Balloon Revavroom would come to wall an SD Scale Shot Earthquake Garchomp, which otherwise had an insane matchup here. My goal is for this to catch the Revavroom off guard, thinking that it could wall me, and I'm able to remove it with the game with a +2 Poison Jab. Revavroom was the one mon I was super concerned about offensively when I was looking at my final product, so I figured this Garchomp had to come. I could have done Earthquake over Rocks, but I felt like I needed the chip on Rotom Wash and Overqwil to set up the Samurott late game. Also, he doesn't actually have a reason to expect a no ground move Garchomp, so he may be deterred from switching in something like Overqwil or Iron Treads until I've revealed all 4 of my moves. So, that's my team for week 4 of the TGS versus Sean. Before the battle begins, his Ceruledge and Revavroom revealed their Terra types to be Ghost and Fairy respectively. With a lack of his best knockers in Mienshao and Lokix, Ceruledge is very likely to be Poltergeist, and Revavroom I'm now very confident will be that balloon set, so I'm starting this battle off very confident in my game plan. As mentioned, Ursaring is my guaranteed lead, and I Swords Dance turn 1 knowing that Torn won't stay in, risking a Body Slam Para. However, his Rotom Wash reveals to be Reflect plus Rocky Helmet, which stops Ursaring from really doing anything, and a crit from Hydro Pump stops me from getting a 3rd hit off. However, I've already done the necessary damage for Ceaseless Edge to knock out Rotom Wash, so I was fine with this trade. The Torn comes out, so I send my Rotom Heat in to safely Volt Switch, but he reveals an eject button on his Deoxys to get his Ceruledge in for free. However, now it's my turn to catch him off guard and swing the momentum back in my favor. And he's gonna go out to the Ceruledge, but I'm not too concerned about Ceruledge with Slowbro, because I can just easily not take Poltergeist here. I could just pop him with a Foul Play. If he Swords Dances, it's literally no big deal. Yeah, my play is always going to be to go into my Slowbro here, though. Bulk Up could be annoying. Wouldn't be the worst thing ever. I don't think, at least. Yeah, there's the fail on the Poltergeist. So, the question is, do I make a swap here? Because I think the Deoxys defense or the Rotom's going to come out here. Like, I'm pretty sure one of those two is going to try to come out here on my Slowbro, because he's scared of Thunder Wave. Actually going to do that. I'm going to make a double here into my Samurott. On the alternative, I could also go Enamorus here, because I think it's most likely he goes Rotom, if anything. And Enamorus just gets me a Terra Blast off. Ceaseless basically just brings in this thing for free. I think I actually like the play of going out into Enamorus a little bit more here, and just getting my Stellar off. Yeah, so there's the Rotom. With Enamorus safely in, I proc my Stellar Terra typing and knock out the Deoxys defense. Revavroom comes in to try and force me out, however I opt to stay in as... Yeah, I'm gonna go over this turn later because there's a lot to dissect here. With that miss in mind, Enamorus gets another kill against the Ceruledge, and I opt to switch in Rotom Heat to save Enamorus in case I need it for Healing Wish or another strong attack. Although the game is very much so in my hands, there's only one play left that I need to make to lock it up. I go into my Rotom. He gets a Sludge Bomb Poison on me, so maybe that was a bad play. He's gonna U-turn here. I think either way, I'm just gonna go for Overheat. I can bring this thing back. I'm just gonna Overheat here. Yeah, I'm just gonna Overheat here. Or do I Volt? No, I'm just gonna go for an Overheat here. Yeah, he does U-turn. I hope he goes Treads here. Expecting me to Volt. He does go Treads. I knock it out with the Overheat. He was Air Balloon. And with the Treads down, Samurott Hisui has an easy job revenging Torn and finishing off the match for us. So, yeah, let's now talk about turn 10. My thought process in this scenario was with Deoxys and defense down, and the Ursaring also down, Enamorus really didn't have a huge role in this game anymore. On top of this, Revavroom was the only mon that concerned me offensively at this point, so in my eyes, attacking it stopped it from ever getting set up. which would give me a simple win path to the end. This is where Pokemon can be so tough, because obviously Sean saw how strong Terra Moonblast was still into his team, and saw no reason for me to sack my Enamorus, so he went with a riskier Gunk Shout over Ironhead to call my swap into something like my Slowbro. Was this a bad play? Absolutely not, because he had good logic in making that click. But do I still stand by my play? Yes, because of what I mentioned earlier. How you and your opponent view a Pokemon can make or break a match, and it most certainly did right here. So, yeah, that was my week 4 of the TGS. GG's to my opponent Sean. Obviously turn 10 was a blow and kind of sealed the game early on, which sucks, but it was still a pleasure to play. With that being said, we move on to week 5, where we take on the Commissioner, OG Albina. I'll catch you guys for week 5 of the TGS Pokemon Draft League.